When we left off last, Avon was just trying to understand her fight with Connor, and she's out in an old wagon, and she sees her name that's been carved into the wagon, and it's really old. So AVN didn't mean Kavanaugh all along when they found it in the storage shed. It means Avon. So I'll pick up from there. I sat with Zion out on the sidewalk at lunch the next day. "Do you know where Connor's been?" he asked, popping a potato chip into his mouth. He offered me one, and I took it from him with my toes. "I haven't seen him the last couple of days." I stared down at my lunch, slowly chewing the potato chip, and I said, "I don't know." "What's wrong?" Zion asked me. "Why is anything wrong?" I asked. "Well, how come you don't know where he is?" "Well, it's not like I know where he is all the time," I snorted. "I'm not his all-the-time watcher person." Zion raised his eyebrow and said, "Avon?" in almost a scolding tone. I sighed. "Okay, fine. We got into a fight." "About what?" I shrugged. "He hurt my feelings, and I hurt his feelings, so everyone got their feelings hurt, that's all." I looked at him and said, "I think it was just a misunderstanding." "Well, you better fix it," said Zion. "I can't fix anything if I can't find him." "Well, he's got to come back to school at some point. And when he does," I trailed off. "Well, what would happen then?" "And when he does?" Zion prompted. "Well, when he does, I'll make it right." I walked into the saloon and steakhouse after school and sat at the bar. The bartender, fully bedecked in cowboy gear, even though I knew he was just a regular old college student, raised his eyebrow at me. "Give me a stiff one, Charlie," I said. I could tell he was holding back a smile. "Avon, you know you can't sit at the bar." I groaned and dropped my head forward onto the old wooden bar. My forehead hit the shiny, polished oak with a loud thump. "That's a stupid rule," I muttered, pressing my forehead into the cold wood. "It's not my rule," Charlie said. "It's what's the thing that it's called again? Oh, yeah, it's the law's rule. It's the law." He pointed at a nearby table. "Go sit over there and I'll bring you your drink." I got down from the bar stool, dragged my forehead off the bar as I went. "You better put an extra cherry in it today," I said, flopping down at the table. A minute later, Charlie placed my drink in front of me. "One sarsaparilla for the forlorn red horde, extra maraschino cherries." I frowned and said, "What makes you think I'm forlorn?" He touched my forehead. "Well, you've got a big red spot on your face from bashing it into the bar." He walked back behind the counter to tend to a couple of customers. I sadly swigged down my sarsaparilla through the straw Charlie had kindly provided. When the drink was nearly gone, I made the deliberate slurping sounds as I tried to get the last of it up. The people at the bar stared at me, but I didn't care, so I just slurped louder. I think I was trying to drown out the sounds of the annoying piano player, which I wanted to kick to death at the current moment. Now, this is the most theatrical display of melodramatics I have ever seen in my life. I looked up and found Josephine standing in front of me. I sat back from my empty drink. "Sorry," I said. Josephine pulled out a chair and sat down across me. "You need to tell me what's the matter." I shrugged. "Why would you think that something's the matter?" I asked, frowning hard, so hard that it made the muscles in my face hurt. "I don't know. Could be you've been moping around this place for the last few days like somebody died." "Nobody died." I stared at the red and white plastic checkerboard tablecloth. "It's just my friend is mad at me." "Oh, you mean the one who barks all the time?" I nodded. "You two seem to be pretty good pals. I'm sure you'll work it out." I raised my eyebrows and I looked at Josephine. I realized I knew absolutely nothing about her except that she had worked at Stagecoach Pass since it opened. Despite seeing her all the time, she was always too busy to ever speak to me, and I didn't want to lose the chance to get any information out of her that I could. "Do you have family, Josephine?" I asked her. She looked surprised at the question and said, "No, I don't." "Have you ever been married?" She smiled. "Nope, never had time for that nonsense." I nodded in agreement. "I don't think I'm going to get married either." She laughed. "Only 13 and already knows she won't ever marry." She slapped the table. "It figures." What figures? Josephine looked like I had just caught her letting out a gigantic fart or something. Nothing. Just young people these days. I stared at her. You've worked here a long time, haven't you? Yep, just about 60 years. Whoa, that's so long. Yes, it is. And you've always worked in the restaurant? No, I've done all kinds of jobs around here, just about everything there is to do. Were you ever a fortune teller? She laughed. Well, maybe not everything there is to do. So why do you stay here? She drummed her fingers on the plastic tablecloth and said, I guess I like it here. I studied her face. So, you were here in 1973 then? She stopped drumming her fingers and tilted her head a little bit and said, Sure. Why? Do you remember a girl who was here? A girl who looks just like me but with arms? I know this sounds crazy, but I think her name might have been Avon, too. This seemed to make Josephine uncomfortable. She shifted in her seat and said, I don't really recall. She pushed away from the table and stood up. You know who I'm talking about, don't you? I gotta get back to work, she told me. Those cowboy beans aren't gonna serve themselves. Wait! But she was already gone. The next day after school, I made my way to the bus, hoping I would find Connor on it. Instead, I found Dad standing in front of it, waiting for me. What are you doing here, Dad? I asked him. I brought you this. And he lifted a bag that he had strapped over his shoulder and hung it around my neck. It's got your shorts and t-shirt in it, shin guards, and Mom ordered you brand new cleats that have Velcro. I sighed. Dad, I'm not saying you have to go try out. I'm just giving you the option. You can either turn around and make your way to the field over there, or you can carry this bag onto the bus and go home. It's your choice. He kissed my forehead. It's your choice, Sheebs, and I watched him walk away. I stood there on the sidewalk as the kids poured onto the bus, my soccer bag hanging around my neck, still hoping I might see Connor. I had loved soccer from the very first kick in 2nd grade. I was so good at it, it almost felt like I was cheating because I could use my feet for my hands, and you're not allowed to use your hands in soccer, but I didn't tell anyone. Soccer ended up being the good bonding experience Dad had always wanted for us. He would practice with me at home after school, and we would watch soccer games on TV together, after the Lone Ranger, of course. We had fun cheering on Brazil. I don't know why we cheered on Brazil, but I think it was because they called it football instead of soccer. Dad said that made so much more sense. I asked him what football would be called, then if soccer was called football. And he said, it should be called Man Smash. I kind of agree with that. Dad and I weren't the only ones who loved it, though. Mom always came to my games. She was like one of those embarrassing, crazy people you hear about who takes kids' sports way too seriously. She would constantly yell at my coach, and my coach would threaten to ban her from the games. And, of course, the coach was my dad. You're getting on or what, Avon? The bus driver asked, startling me from my thoughts. It was hard to think about putting myself out there again, trying to be a part of a new team at a new school with a new coach and everyone watching me. But I think there are a lot of hard things in life. Who would I be if I gave up when things got hard? So, I'll tell you who I'd be. I'd be the Queen of Sheba. I looked up at the bus driver. No, not today, I said, and I walked away from the bus. I dropped my bag onto the bench by the field and walked over to a cluster of soccer balls. I pulled one out of the group with my foot and started dribbling it around slowly. I glanced at a small group of girls who were also trying out for the team. They were all talking and laughing together. I went back to dribbling the ball around, focusing all of my attention on it, trying not to think about the group of girls standing on the other side of the field. Hi, I heard someone say from behind me. I stopped the ball with my foot and turned around. It was the girl I had briefly spoken with in science class on my first day of school. She had long brown hair pulled into a ponytail. Avon, right? She said. I breathed heavily from working with the ball and said, That's right. I'm Jessica, she said, tightening her ponytail. We were watching you with the ball. And my stomach sank. Of course they were watching. I tried not to let my shoulders slump. Oh? You're really good. How long have you been playing? She asked. Oh? I said a little more brightly. Well, since about second grade. How about you? This is my second year. I'm pretty sure you're going to make the team. I hoped my smile wasn't too big, that it made me look spastic or something. You think so? Definitely. You have really good control over the ball. Thanks. You're going to love being on the soccer team, Jessica went on like I had already made him. It's so fun when we have away games. Last year we did makeovers on the bus, and we prank called Coach Fuller on her cell phone from the back. That's her over there, Jessica pointed at the short, stout, gray-haired woman who was intensely studying a piece of paper on the other side of the field. After like the 10th time we did it, she started yelling, I'm gonna call the cops on you, you hoodlums. Everyone on the bus could hear her. She laughed and said, it was hilarious. Olivia filmed her on the phone. She gestured at a group of girls. I assumed one of them had to be Olivia. We'll show you the video. It's really funny. That sounds like fun, I said. I hope I make it. Oh, you'll love it. We also have pizza parties, and last year we had a team slumber party. Coach Fuller called us over to get started. I guess we better go. She smiled at me. Yeah, let's go. She motioned for me to follow her, and even though I walked beside her on the way to the coach, I felt like I was dancing. Dad drove me home after the soccer tryouts. He had shown up when they ended like he had never had any doubt that I would try out. What a know-it-all. He beamed and asked a million questions as I described every detail of the tryouts to him in the car. When we got to Stagecoach Pass, he opened the center console and pulled out an envelope and said, I found this in a drawer in the steakhouse, he said. He turned the envelope over, and I saw the words written on it. Desk. They don't fit the desk in the office. He opened the flap and on my book bag and slid the envelope inside. So, let me know what you find in the desk in the storage shed, Sheebs. I ran as fast as I could to the storage shed before I lost the last bit of light creeping through the filmy windows. I slipped my foot out of my flap, opened my book bag, removed the envelope, slid my toes inside. I pulled out the ring with 2 small keys hanging off of it. I felt like I was playing one of those impossible carnival games as I attempted to slip one of the keys held between my toes into the hole in the desk. I finally fit, and I pushed it all the way in with my bottom foot. It took all the strength to turn it, and it hurt the skin on my toes. But the key turned in the lock, and I pulled the bottom drawer out and looked inside. Another stack of papers. I pulled those out, barely able to read any of them in the failing light. But underneath the stack, lying in the bottom of the drawer, was a framed picture. I carefully lifted it out with my feet and laid it on the floor in front of me. It was one of 2 red-haired women. They stood in front of the steakhouse, and they had their arms together around each other. The older one I clearly recognized, but the other I didn't. But I could see my face in her. She wore the necklace, and she was pregnant. I slipped the picture into my book bag and carried it home. Mom was already putting dinner on the table when she turned and gave me a smile. So, how'd it go? For a moment, I didn't know what she was talking about. Oh, soccer. Oh, soccer, of course, she said and laughed, and her face fell. Did it not go very well? No, it went great. Well, then what's wrong? She asked. I opened the desk, I told her. She stared at me silently, and I found a picture in there. It's in my bag. Mom immediately lifted the bag off of me and carried it to the table, and she opened it and pulled the picture out, and she studied it intensely. I know where it goes, I told her. We walked to the museum together, and Mom pressed the picture against the empty space in the wall. The Kavanaughs, 2004. The year I was born. Mom let out a big sigh. After you showed Dad and me that picture of that girl, we worried maybe it was something like this, but we weren't sure. And we didn't know who would have. We even tried contacting the adoption agency we used, but your birth certificate and any identifying records were sealed. They couldn't tell us anything. We hadn't decided what else to do about it yet. I don't know what to do either, I said. Do you think she knows? Mom turned to me and ran down my hair. How could she not? She put her hands on my shoulders and squeezed. Do you want to go talk to her? I looked at the older lady in the picture. I needed to know, and my parents needed to know, and I took a deep breath and said, "Okay." "Do you want me to go with you?" I looked up at her and said, "I think maybe I should go alone." And Mom nodded. "I understand." I made my way to the steakhouse, the photo in my bag. I watched as Josephine took an order from a table and then followed her back to the kitchen. She noticed me as she placed a couple of burgers on a tray. "What you doing back here, Avon?" "I need to talk to you, Josephine." "I'm awfully busy." She pushed through the swinging doors back to the dining room, and I followed her out. I waited until she placed the burgers in front of the customers, and I said again, "I need to talk to you," as I followed her back into the kitchen. I could have easily walked away, but I wouldn't let her or my nerves scare me off. She stopped and folded her arms. "Okay, now what could be so important that you would interrupt dinner like this?" I stared at her, my heart racing. "I won't leave until you talk to me." She made a bit of a frustrated sigh, led me to the little restaurant's office, and said, "Better make it quick. I've got tables out there." I placed my bag on the desk, opened the flap, and pulled out my framed picture with my foot. It was heavy, and my toes trembled, and it started to slip. And Josephine reached out and grabbed it before it could drop, and she slowly turned the picture back over, shaking her hands. "I know you know her. Please tell me the truth." "Yes." Her eyes filled with tears, and she said, "I do know her." Now I'm going to stop us there. We'll find out more later.